Used to believe that love was enough. That if you poured yourself into someone, built a life with them piece by piece, they would honor what you gave. My name is Claire. I'm 30 years old. And for the past 4 years, I thought I had found my forever. I thought I was standing on the edge of a beautiful beginning. Instead, I was standing on a trapdoor that would open beneath my feet with nothing more than a text message. It was a Tuesday morning, 9:17 a.m. I was sitting at my desk staring at endless spreadsheets. The kind of work that numbs the brain but pays the bills. My phone buzzed and I didn't think much of it at first. But when I looked down and saw his name, my fiancé, the man I was supposed to marry in 2 weeks, my chest tightened. I opened the message expecting something sweet, maybe a reminder about dinner plans. Instead, I read words that shattered my life in 33 heartless syllables. Hey, I can't do this. I'm not in a place to get married right now. My heart isn't in it and I need to follow my truth. I'm really sorry. My hands trembled as I read the text once, then again, as if repetition could change it. My vision blurred, numbers on the spreadsheet dissolving into meaningless shapes. The room tilted and it felt like the floor had collapsed beneath me. 4 years of love, 1 year of engagement, endless nights planning venues and flowers and futures, all of it detonated by a single message. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, a strange clarity filled me. It was cold, merciless, like staring at a puzzle that had finally snapped into place and realizing the picture was nothing like you'd imagined. Suddenly, every excuse he'd made, late nights with friends, his constant phone calls angled away from me, his sudden obsession with some wellness guru named Joseph, it all made sense. Every piece of doubt I'd silenced came rushing back, demanding to be heard. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, torn between rage and heartbreak. I wanted to type 1,000 words, demand answers, scream into the void of his betrayal. But then something darker, sharper cut through the noise. Why give him the satisfaction of my meltdown when he hadn't even given me the dignity of a conversation? So I wrote back 2 words, my condolences. It wasn't sarcasm, it wasn't rage. It was a funeral announcement for the relationship that had just died, for the man I thought I loved, for the future we'd buried without warning. Then, with a steadiness that startled me, I took a screenshot of his message. My hands didn't shake anymore. I opened my email and attached the image. The subject line was simple: regarding the wedding. I sent it directly to his parents, the ones paying for the venue, the flowers, the caterer, the endless spectacle of a marriage that now would never happen. I didn't add a word. The text was its own epitaph. I silenced my phone and shoved it deep into my desk drawer. For an hour I stared blankly at my screen, pretending to work while my heart roared inside me like a storm. I knew the chaos was coming, but I had chosen not to be its container. I had rerouted it back to its source. When I finally checked my phone again, it was a battlefield. 12 missed calls from him, 7 from his mother, 1 urgent call from his father, the subject line flashing like an accusation: Richard Vance, urgent call requested. I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. They weren't worried about me, not about the woman their son had just discarded like an inconvenient dress rehearsal. No, I knew exactly what this was about. It was about their money, their reputation, the 6-figure circus they had financed. Not once, not for a single moment did I expect anyone to ask, "Are you okay?" But the real wound wasn't just in the betrayal, it was in the realization that my pain was irrelevant. I wasn't a daughter to them. I wasn't even a fiancé anymore. I was a liability, a problem to be managed, a number on a ledger they now wanted erased. That night, after ignoring every call, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat alone in my apartment. My phone lit up endlessly on the table, but I let it ring. For the first time in our entire relationship, I chose silence over surrender. And in that silence, something inside me hardened. This wasn't the end they had chosen for me. This was the beginning I would carve for myself. When the chaos finally broke through my silence, it came in the form of his father's voice. I waited until I was home, wrapped in the safety of my own 4 walls, before I returned the call. I thought I was prepared, but nothing could have braced me for the cold fury that greeted me. "Claire," he barked, not even bothering with a greeting. What the hell is this? Is this some kind of joke? I stared at the glass of whiskey in my hand, my pulse steady. I wish it were, I said quietly. Your son ended our engagement this morning. That's the only truth there is. There was a muffled sound, and then his mother's shrill voice cut through the speaker. Darling. What is she talking about? Claire, sweetie, you two just had a little fight, didn't you? All brides get cold feet. You're the steady one. You need to fix this. You need to fix this. The audacity of it struck me like a slap. I, the one discarded, blindsided, humiliated, was now expected to mop up their social catastrophe, to become the janitor of their broken fairy tale. I let the ice creep into my tone. A little fight is about where to have dinner. This was a termination. He ended it. There is nothing for me to fix. Then his father's voice came back, a low growl vibrating with barely contained rage. Do you understand how much we've invested in this wedding? $150,000. The venue is non-refundable. The caterer has clauses that will gut us. This isn't about your little romance anymore. Do you have any idea what you've cost us? Not once did they ask if I was all right. Not a shred of sympathy. My grief was an afterthought, my dignity irrelevant. To them, I wasn't a woman whose heart had just been shattered. I was a defective cog in their machine, a broken investment. I held my voice steady even as my throat ached. That sounds like a conversation you need to have with your son. He's the one who broke the engagement. He's the one who betrayed not just me but you too. Before they could unleash another volley of blame, my phone beeped with another incoming call. His name lit up the screen. I had been waiting for that. I have to go, I said, and I hung up on them. My heart pounded as I stared at his name flashing. Anger rose sharp and hot, but I didn't answer. The call ended. Seconds later the text began. You told my parents. You went behind my back to turn them against me. You know how my dad is. This is exactly why I couldn't marry you. You're manipulative, vindictive. Call them right now and tell them you overreacted. My dad is threatening to cut me off. This is your fault. Each message landed like another knife, not because they hurt me anymore, but because of the sheer gall. It was breathtaking the way he twisted the truth, erasing his betrayal and painting me as the villain. In his story, I was no longer the fiancé discarded by text message. I was the scheming woman destroying his world. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked into my office where a small velvet box sat on the desk. Inside was the gift I had bought for his father, a custom watch engraved with our wedding date. I had imagined giving it to him on that day as a symbol of gratitude for welcoming me into their family. Now, when I opened the box, all I felt was grief. Not for the man who had sent the text, but for the man I thought I was marrying. Not for the family that had berated me, but for the family I believed I was joining. It wasn't just him I lost, it was an entire imagined future. The home we planned to build, the traditions we said we'd start, the children we talked about late at night when the world felt safe. All of it gone, erased in less than a minute by a message typed on a glowing screen. In the days that followed, I moved through life like a shadow. I canceled vendors, made painful phone calls, and untangled the mess of deposits and contracts that no longer meant anything. Every task was another burial, another reminder that what I had built wasn't just ending, it had never been real to begin with. But the real trouble hadn't even begun. Because betrayal isn't content to break your heart. It drags you into wars you never thought you'd fight. And as I would soon discover, I wasn't battling just him. I was battling a family empire that valued appearances above humanity, money above loyalty. I thought the worst had already happened. But betrayal has layers, and each one cuts deeper than the last. The emails began 3 days later. I was still drowning in the logistics of dismantling my life when his mother's name appeared in my inbox. The subject line read simply, "The ring." I clicked my chest tight, already knowing what awaited me. "Since the wedding is no longer proceeding," she wrote, "it is only fair that you return Jessica's engagement ring. Both morally and legally it belongs to her. Returning it could also help offset the catastrophic losses we have incurred. I trust you will do the right thing." The audacity of it left me shaking. That ring, $22,000 paid for with my own savings, wasn't a family heirloom, wasn't a loan, wasn't anything but a promise I had bought with my own hands. Now discarded like an old receipt, I was expected to surrender even that as though I hadn't already given enough. I didn't reply with anger. I replied with law. A short message, clinical and cold. The ring is a conditional gift. The condition was not met. It is my property. Consider the matter closed. But of course it wasn't closed. Betrayers rarely leave quietly. Soon after the whispers began, friends I hadn't spoken to in weeks called with hesitant voices. Claire, is it true you were controlling? That you suffocated him? That you pushed him into this? The story spreading was grotesque, that I had become unbearable, that he had been brave enough to leave me, that some new friend, that wellness guru Joseph, had helped him find his truth. I wanted to scream, to claw the lies out of the air and show everyone the 33 words that had detonated my life. But instead I remembered my lawyer's advice: don't fight in the mud. Document everything, speak only with facts. Protect your dignity, not their perception. So I posted once in the group chat meant for our cancelled wedding events. A neutral clinical message. Yes, the wedding is off. To clarify, he ended our engagement last week. It's been a difficult time and I'm focusing on moving forward. I wish him the best. It wasn't cathartic. It wasn't satisfying. But the flood of private messages afterward told me it had been enough. Their stories were already contradicting. The lies were fraying at the edges. Then came the night I saw him again. Not in the way I had imagined, not with apologies or tears, but barging into the home we once shared with his new shadow at his side. Joseph the guru with the plastic smile and vacant eyes. They came not to reconcile, not to explain, but to take. I need my things, he said without meeting my eyes. But what he pointed to wasn't just his things, it was our life. The television, the coffee machine, the sofa his mother had chipped in for. Each item became a battlefield. I helped pick that, he insisted. My mom gave us money for that, he claimed. And then his gaze landed on the watch. The engraved chronograph I had once meant for his father, sitting on my desk like a ghost of a future that would never be. Oh good, he said, his voice dripping with false sweetness. You were going to give that to Dad. I'll take it. It might smooth things over. I moved before he could touch it, my hand covering the box. No. His head snapped up, his voice sharp. What do you mean no? I met his eyes. My voice low and steady. I bought that for my father-in-law. I don't have one of those anymore. You made sure of that. The condition for the gift was never met. Joseph puffed his chest, stepping forward like a dog protecting his master. Hey, don't be a jerk. It's just a watch. I turned to him, my words like steel. You're right, it is. And it's mine. The room went still. For the first time since that text message, I saw shock cross his face. He had mistaken my patience for weakness. He had mistaken my silence for surrender. But that night he realized I was no longer the woman he could play with like a pawn. Get your clothes, I said coldly. Your personal items. Nothing else. You have 1 hour. He left with boxes that felt as hollow as his promises. But I knew the war wasn't over. Because what he couldn't pack in those boxes, the lease, the bills, the ties that still bound us legally, would soon become the battlefield for the next round of betrayal. And this time, I was ready. The boxes were gone, but the shadow of him lingered in every corner of the apartment. His cologne clung to the couch, his voice echoed in the walls, his betrayal seeped into the floorboards. I thought maybe after forcing him out, I'd finally feel peace. Instead, I felt the tension coil tighter, as though the real fight hadn't yet begun. And I was right. A week later the lights went out, literally. One moment I was working at my laptop, the next I was plunged into darkness. The hum of electricity silenced, the Wi-Fi dead. At first I thought it was a power outage, but when I checked the utility company's website my stomach sank. The account still under his name was overdue and disconnected. In his dramatic exit he hadn't just left me with memories, he had left me with debt. Anger burned hot in my chest as I realized the cruel irony. To keep the lights on in my own home, I had to pay his bills. $480 gone, in an instant drained from me so I could simply live. I took the receipt, attached it to an email, and sent it to him and his mother with the subject line, "Final Utilities." Then I blocked them both. It should have ended there. But betrayal doesn't die quietly. The next week my doorman called. Claire, his voice was cautious. He's downstairs. He's saying he's a resident. He's demanding access. My stomach dropped. Is he alone? No, the doorman said grimly. The tan guy's with him, the one who struts like he owns the place. Joseph. Of course, always orbiting, always feeding off the chaos. Don't let them up, I said firmly. Tell him he has to coordinate with me in writing as per the notice. If he refuses, call the police. Minutes later my phone buzzed again. He's refusing, the doorman reported. He's causing a scene. My heart pounded as I grabbed the folder I had prepared, the lease, the certified mail receipt, the legal notices, all my armor for this exact battle. I rode the elevator down each floor feeling like another descent into war. The lobby was chaos. He was shouting at the doorman, Joseph circling like a jackal with his phone raised, filming everything. And then, the moment I stepped into view, she turned. Jessica. The woman who had shattered me with a text, now playing the victim in the middle of my building's lobby. There she is, she shrieked, pointing at me. Tell him he can't lock me out. And right on cue the police walked in. 2 officers, weary eyes scanning the circus in front of them. Jessica turned on the tears instantly, her performance flawless. Thank God you're here, she sobbed. He illegally evicted me. He cut off my power. He's holding my things hostage. He's abusive, manipulative. Each word was a dagger twisted to paint me as the monster. And for a moment fear clutched my throat. Would they believe her? Would all my careful composure crumble in the face of her lies? One officer, a tired-looking man who had probably seen this play 100 times, turned to me. Sir, what's going on here? I didn't start with my folder. I started with my voice. Calm, steady, steel. She left, I said firmly. She abandoned the apartment. I sent her a legal notice to arrange a time to get her belongings. She ignored it. Instead, she shows up here demanding access, causing a disturbance. This isn't an eviction. This is a civil dispute. Then I opened the folder showing the documents. Here's the notice. Here's the lease. Here's proof she's refused to cooperate. The officer barely looked at the papers before turning back to her. Ma'am, is it true you're not living here anymore? She sputtered, eyes darting, her performance cracking. I'm staying with a friend right now. But he forced me out. The officer sighed, his patience frayed. This is a civil matter. We don't get involved in lease disputes. But what you're doing right now is causing a disturbance. You need to leave the property. If you don't, you can be cited for disorderly conduct. If you want your things, you need to work it out legally. The defeat on her face was like watching a mask shatter. Joseph lowered his phone. The performance was over. They left, their footsteps heavy with humiliation. The lobby fell silent again. My doorman looked at me with sympathy. Sorry you had to deal with that. I nodded, my voice quiet but resolute. Not your fault, thanks for handling it. As the elevator doors closed behind me, my reflection stared back, tired, shaken, but unbroken. The war wasn't over. She still had 30 days to retrieve her things, 30 days to claw at what wasn't hers. But for the first time since that text message, I felt something stir inside me. Not just anger, not just grief, power, because each battle she started, I ended. Each lie she spun, I unraveled. And each time she tried to paint me as weak, I showed her I was still standing. The 30-day clock ticked louder than any words she could hurl at me. Each day felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting to see if she'd jump or drag me down with her. I braced for another explosion, another ambush in the lobby, another storm of lies. But when the final day came, it arrived not with fireworks, but with a whimper. An email landed in my inbox from a lawyer she had scraped together the money to hire. It was formal, clipped, lifeless. It arranged a time for her to retrieve her remaining belongings, and included the lease transfer paperwork signed and sealed. She wasn't coming back to fight. She was coming back to collect the ashes. On moving day, I watched from the corner of the apartment as 2 men carried out the boxes I had packed with meticulous care. Jessica followed them, her face a mask of cold stone. She didn't look at me. Not once. She pointed, they lifted, they carried. The life we had built together, piece by piece, lamp by lamp, pillow by pillow, walked out the door on the backs of strangers. The silence between us was deafening. No accusations, no apologies, no words at all. The only sound that broke the air came when one of the movers snagged a cord and cracked the base of a hideous floor lamp she loved. She flinched just barely, and a faint sound escaped her lips. That was the only emotion she allowed herself. Then she was gone. And just like that, so was the war. The quiet that followed was the cleanest sound I'd ever heard. For the first time in months, I walked through my apartment without bracing for the next blow. The walls no longer echoed with his voice or her laughter. The air no longer reeked of their betrayal. It was mine again. Not the life I planned, not the future I dreamed, but mine. Still the ripples of destruction traveled outward. I heard whispers of what happened to them through friends, bits of gossip carried like fragments of a storm. His father raged, calling every vendor, threatening lawsuits, demanding money back that would never return. 6 figures lost, burned by their arrogance. His mother drowned in blame, pointing fingers at everyone but herself and Jessica. She crumbled. The wellness guru who had been her savior abandoned her the moment the money dried up. His so-called vibrational energy disappeared when the credit card stopped working. They had their spectacular breakup in public, a humiliating unraveling that left her as alone as she had left me. I should have felt vindicated. I should have savored it like a victory feast. But the truth is, I didn't. Because revenge doesn't taste like sweetness. It tastes like ash. Even when the scales tip in your favor, even when justice lands where it should, you're left standing in the ruins of everything you once loved. Winning doesn't heal you. It just stops the bleeding long enough for the scars to form. Some nights I still feel the sting. I wake in the quiet of my apartment, my heart racing, remembering the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. But then I look around. At the space that is finally mine. At the silence that isn't emptiness but peace. At the future that may not be what I dreamed but is free of lies. And I feel something stronger than grief. I feel gratitude. Gratitude that I saw the truth before I walked down the aisle. Gratitude that his cruelty revealed itself in time for me to escape. Gratitude that the woman I thought I was, the naive, trusting girl who silenced her instincts, is gone. In her place stands someone sharper, someone stronger, someone who knows that silence can be power, and walking away can be the loudest victory of all. I sold the engagement ring. I used the money to pay off the last debts that tethered me to that ghost of a wedding. The rest I tucked away like a seed for a future that I would water myself. As for the watch, the engraved chronograph meant for his father, it still sits in its box locked away in my safe. I've thought about selling it, about ridding myself of that last reminder, but I keep it. Not as a trophy, not as a symbol of revenge, but as a monument. A reminder of the most expensive bullet I ever dodged. Because that's what betrayal is in the end. It feels like it destroys you, but really it spares you. It shows you the truth before you waste any more of yourself on people unworthy of your love. So if you're listening to my story, if you've ever been left broken by someone who promised forever, hear me when I say this: you will survive. You will rebuild. And one day the silence that feels unbearable now will become the peace you didn't know you were craving. If my story touched you, if you've ever felt the sting of betrayal and the slow rise of strength afterward, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to my channel. And most of all, leave me a comment below. I want to hear your story too. Healing begins when we stop suffering in silence.